finally the culmination of a lot of work, really going back to December. All the things that have happened in the last year in terms of hiring a coaching staff and getting over here and then recruiting our team. Which was kind of a different process than we'd ever taken on before. Just trying to get guys to stay with us, and we're really fortunate that a lot of the players did put their trust in us and our coaching staff, and really in each other as much as anything else, and elected to stick around. And so feel really good about the nucleus that we have here right now. Feel really good about our coaching staff. Excited for our players. I think that certainly last year didn't go the way that they anticipated it going, and was a difficult year in a lot of ways. And so I think they're ready to get all that behind them and have an opportunity to go play against a really good football team, and a team that has a lot of new players and a lot of unknowns, obviously with Colorado. Kind of restocked their roster through the transfer portal and recruiting. And so, as we go into this first game, I think everybody's going to go through that in week one in college football in some ways, just because of the turnover and things that are different in college football now. In the past years, you would have a pretty good sense of what the team was going to look like and who was coming back, and you could find them on film. And now, if you want to try to find everybody that you're trying to prepare against, you might have to go watch 20 different teams play, and all the film on those guys. So it's a different time in college football, but again, our guys are excited to play, looking forward to it. I really like our preparation. I think our players have been dialed in really over about the last week. I think they're getting excited to go play. Was very impressed with the camp that we had. Our goal was to try to stay as healthy as we could, through the training camp, and at the same time, get the number of reps and the physical play that we needed to. And that's a fine line that you're walking, and I felt like we walked that line pretty well. And so I think we're in a good spot now, and anxious and excited to go play in a great setting. I've been to Folsom Field several times as a coach, and always impressed with the atmosphere and the fans, and it's a fun place to go watch a college football game. So should be a heck of a game on Friday night, and we're looking forward to it.
Coach, the coaches get a sense of what their team is going to be like, as in, is this going to be a team that's going to outscore folks, or is this going to be a team that stifles them? I mean, will it be like the last time you played Cal when it was 59-56, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, honestly, I don't know the answer to that. I think as coaches, we always think we know those things, and then you get into the game, and sometimes the game goes completely different than you think it's going to. There's been plenty of games I've coached in the past where we thought, it was going to be a very high-scoring game, ended up being a low-scoring game, and vice versa. So, I don't really know. I mean, I think that, I have a lot of confidence on both sides of the ball. I think that when you look at Colorado, as I said earlier, the thing that stuck out to me looking at their tape last year was just they played hard. They played hard every single week, didn't matter what the score was, didn't matter what the circumstance was. And I think as much as anything else, that tells you what you need to know about the program. And so I think, Coach Durrell and his staff have those guys in a really good place. I think it's obvious the effort they showed consistently last year, and they've obviously got a very talented team. So, I don't know how it's going to go. I have no idea. I think as a staff we think we know, but you never know until it happens.
Sonny, you've indicated that all three quarterbacks could play, and you've got an order on the depth chart. What's going to be the decision, and does it really matter which one starts on the Friday?
I don't think it matters. I mean, I think it's like any other position. I know that the quarterback position always gets the bulk of the attention, and deservedly so. I think, as everybody said, you better have a quarterback in college football or pro football or high school football, or for that matter, junior high, or, flag football. My son's playing flag football this year, and a lot of the success of his team is going to be determined by whether or not they have a quarterback. And so it's just the way it is. I think we're in a good spot. I mean, we've obviously, Max Duggan has a significant resume, that he has played a lot of snaps in the last 3 years here at TCU, and has played very well. And so Chandler is the same way. I mean, you go back and you look at some of the games he played in last year, he played exceptional. And so they both have experience and they both have done it. You know, so I think it's a fun group. I like the guys a lot. You know, Sam certainly brings a different element to the room. And so, you know, I would anticipate all three of them playing. And my expectation is all three of them play well.
What does this team have to do well to have a successful season?
Well, I mean, you know, it's the same. I mean, it's the same for every team. You know, for us, we have to play harder than our opponent. You know, I think that's where it begins and ends. If you don't play harder and you're not tougher than your opponent, you're not going to have an opportunity to win very often. And so that's where it starts. I mean, our effort's got to be better than Colorado's effort. If it's not, we won't win on Friday night. And so that part's going to be the same every single game that we play really this year. I think that's obviously critical. You know, the games are won and lost up front. You know, a lot of attention's paid to all the other things, but, you know, we better be good on our defensive and offensive fronts for us to have the kind of season that we want to have. And then you look at all the other things, you know, obviously turnovers, you look at explosive plays. You know, those are the two things when you combine those two that typically determine the outcome of a game. And then you factor in, you know, plays in special teams and all that stuff. But, you know, I think one of the big things for us too is to be emotionally stable. You know what I mean? I think that's going to be a big thing, is for our guys to have enough confidence where if they give up a play, you know, they move on. You know, they forget about it and they move on. Or if they have success and things are going our way, that they have an ability to put that out of their mind as well and just play hard consistently for 60 minutes. And again, to me, that's the measure of a program. You know, when things are going good, how hard do you play? When things are going bad, how hard do you play? And so, to me, that's where it starts, and that's the most important evaluation that we'll have, is just how hard are our guys playing.
You're talking about up front, center and guard and left guard switch, and then freshman and nose tackle. Can you talk about those?
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, the good thing about our offensive line is I think we'll play with 7, 8 guys. I think if I was guessing, maybe 3 different centers will play. You know, I think there'll be a lot of movement through our offensive and defensive fronts. And, you know, I think we're confident with, you know, Steve and Alon playing either way. I don't think it's that big of a difference. You know, I think it probably boils down to honestly how comfortable they are in their role and how really they want to play it. And so they can play either position. As I said, we'll roll guys through. There'll be some guys that play guard and tackle. Same thing with the defensive front. You know, my guess is, you know, we're a 3-down team. My guess is 8 or 9 defensive linemen will play during the course of the game. You know, because we feel like all those guys can make significant contributions and help us win. And so, you know, we talked to our team about this at length, about playing as hard as we can play when we're in the game. And we're not saving ourselves for the next play or the next drive or the fourth quarter or any of that. We want to empty our tank every single play and play as hard as we possibly can.
At the running back position, I think I see 3 boards here. Is that playing close to the vest, or is you guys really?
No, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, I think we'll have, you know, running back by committee. We'll kind of see how the games go. And again, it goes to our depth. I mean, it's not like, you know, it's not like we're not comfortable with all those guys playing. I think, you know, that's been to me, one of the biggest surprises has just been the development of players at that position. I think everybody has a pretty good idea of Kendra and what he can do and what he's meant. And then we've got, you know, Amani, you know, has I think surprised everybody. DiMarcardo, just what he's been able to do. I think he's much improved. He's incredibly consistent. You know exactly what you're going to get from him day in, day out. You know, so I've been really pleased with him. Amani Bailey's been really, really good as well. You know, Corey Wren's been good. Trent Battle, I think, has been a very, very pleasant surprise. So we feel like we're deep at that position, and I've said this before, but you know, in today's college football world, or really the NFL world, very seldom is your number one tailback, your starter, your leading rusher. Typically it ends up being your second, third, or sometimes even fourth guy, just the way these guys have a tendency to get nicked and the way games go. So feel good about that depth at that position. I think those guys are interchangeable in a lot of ways. They all bring different talents to the table. And I like having a team that has diversity at the same position. You know, if you have a receiver that has a big guy and a fast guy, those two guys play the same position. You've got two different skill sets you have to prepare for, and you know, two different ways that you have to defend a football team. And so it's a little bit like that at running back for us, and I would anticipate every one of those guys playing.
Coach, when you look at your offense, you talk about the receivers, and it's a very talented group, but you guys get the tight ends involved a lot too. How excited are you for that group, and how confident are you in that group?
Yeah, you know, I like the group. I really do. I think the guys, you know, same thing. I mean, I think we're much improved. I think and pleasantly surprised, you know, of kind of where we thought we'd be. You know, I think we have different type of body types. You know, we've got big guys that can play with their hand on the ground, and then we can play with multiple tight ends. I mean, I think there'll be some situations where we could have 3 tight ends in the game at once, and some of the different personnel groupings and things that we'll do. So, you know, it's a big, strong group. I think they catch the ball well. I've been really pleased with Jared Wiley's development. I think he has gotten better as he's gotten through camp and gotten healthier. You know, like I said, I like the group. I mean, you know, we have some guys in there that are more fullback types that can play in the backfield. And then you've got some of the other guys that, you know, Ivy and some guys like him that can line up attached or, you know, flexed out. And so it gives us a lot of versatility, a lot of different ways to attack people. You know, Rogers has had a good camp as well. I've been pleased with what he's done. Curtis has had a good camp. I've been pleased with what he's done. So a lot of different diversity there, and kind of the same thing at running back position. I mean, we got depth. We got guys that all have different skill sets, and our job is to figure out ways to use them.
You feel it a luxury that in special teams, it's kind of been locked down, your specialists from the beginning?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it always gives you a little peace of mind. You know, I think, you know, I think that knowing who those guys are going to be makes it easier. I mean, they've made big kicks. They've had to punt under duress. They've had to do all those type of things. So I think sometimes when you start with new guys there's a lot of unknowns. So feel good about where we are special teams wise. We have some young kickers that I think are going to make some significant contributions for us as well, kicking off and doing some different things. So like the group overall.
With Travis, I see him listed as R2. I guess what's his status for Friday?
Who's that? I'm sorry.
Travis Hodges-Tomlinson.
Yeah, he's good. He's good to go. Yeah, he's had a great week of practice. Has been healthy and is ready to go.
Coach, you talked a few weeks ago about some guys pushing some guys that have played a lot of football here. And it looks like Josh Newton's one of those guys. Can you talk a little bit about him and the impact he's made?
You know, Josh came to us from Louisiana Monroe, and you know, I love the way he played. I mean, it wasn't hard to notice him. He just made a ton of plays when he started looking at his, you know, Monroe film. But you know, you don't know how people are going to transition. You know, there's so many unknowns, especially when you don't know somebody that well. And oftentimes the transfer portal recruiting stuff really happens fast, and so sometimes you know you have to take a guy that you may not know that well and you haven't had a chance to really do as much background on him as you'd like to, based on the timing and the nature of the way that the transfer portal stuff goes. So he was somebody that we didn't know. Obviously loved his film. He came on a visit. I think we fell in love with who he was. You know, while he was here in Fort Worth for the 48 hours he was here. And then, you know, then you wonder, okay, is that really him, or was he on a recruiting trip, you know? And then, so all these things are unknown. So he showed up, he had a great work ethic, he competed hard in the weight room. You know, he has a hunger. I think he has, you know, I think he would be the first to tell you. I mean, look, I coached at Louisiana Monroe in 1998. That's a, you know, the program's not particularly well funded. I mean, it's tough. You have to, those kids are tough that play in that program. And, you know, you have to be. And he's very appreciative to be here. He's very appreciative to have a facility like this. He's very appreciative to have, you know, the best equipment, the best medical care, and the best meals, and the best tutors, and all the things that we take for granted. He appreciates that stuff, and because it hadn't always been that way for him. It's a little bit like me, you know, kind of coming through the ranks, and you know, you have to, it makes you appreciate things when you get someplace where you have the very best, and we're very fortunate to have that here, and he recognizes that, and you know, and I think he sees this as a great opportunity to go out and play and compete, and he's had an outstanding camp.
Sonny, based on what you said earlier about your team, you kind of hope you know what to expect. Sometimes you really don't until you get out there. I'm going to ask you league-wide, Dave. You were in this league in 2017. You got to see it from a different perspective. There's a lot of new skilled players in this league. There's a couple new coaches. Can you tell what kind of league it's going to be?
Yeah, you know, it's changed. You know, I was in the league from 2000 to 2006, and that was, when I got in the league, it was a two-back power league. By the time I left the league, it was, everybody ran air raid. And then I think at some point, there's been an adjustment that's happened since then. And certainly, you know, a lot of us kind of came from the same place. You know, Neil Brown was a player when I was coaching in Kentucky. And so you just go and you look at these kind of deep connections, and there's a lot of guys that share the same philosophy that we do when it comes to how you want to try to win football games. But at the end of the day, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out. You know, there's some changes with some, you know, some of the programs that have been more successful. Obviously Oklahoma, you know, will be different, and you know, how much different, I don't think any of us know. But it goes back to what I've said over and over and over again. If you go back and you look at the two teams last year that played the championship game, they had one thing in common: they were the two best defenses in the league. And you know, I think Oklahoma State and Baylor both played really good defense, and so as a result, you know, the way I see it, they were playing for the championship because of that. So, you know, that's going to be our challenge, is to improve and to get better.
A long way from every week being 52-46 or 45-46.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. I mean, who the heck knows? You know what I mean? I mean, I do think that, you know, and you go back and you look at the Baylor-Oklahoma State game. I mean, that game is decided by, I mean, literally 2 or 3 inches in the conference championship. And I just think that's the league right now. I think there's a lot of really good teams in the league, and a lot of teams that I think, you know, have a chance to win it. I think it's probably as open as any league in college football. Just taking the view of, again, looking at it from the outside in. You know, just, I haven't studied anybody that closely, but just taking a look at what I think and what I see, that's what it looks like.
Coach, give us some insight into your travel philosophy and how you've molded that over the years, and what do you expect out of your team?
Yeah, I think the thing that we try to do is I'm a big believer in consistency. And so, you know, it's a very similar approach that we take on the road that we have at home. You know, we try to do this exact same schedule, exact same things. Obviously, we have to travel on Thursday, but the things that we do preceding travel are similar. The things we do at the hotel once we get there are similar. You know, this is a little different. Typically, you're playing a Saturday game, and you know, you're sitting around your hotel room, and you know, you're watching college football. You know, to me, I'm going to be sitting around watching, you know, Days of Our Lives, I guess. I don't know if Luke and Laura are still on Days of Our Lives, but I guess I'm going to find out this week, you know. So I think it's, that's kind of I don't know what in the world we're going to do on Friday, you know. I mean, we have a schedule that we do, but a lot of it's just in your room and resting and relaxing, and it's going to be a long day before we kick it off. But hey, that's the way it goes. And you know, I think that's the one thing that we're going to have to do, is just try to, again, go back to that kind of emotional stability I talked about, you know, understanding, look, we got a long time to play. Let's not waste any energy, you know, in pregame or any of that kind of stuff. Let's make sure that we channel everything that we have for kickoff.
So when your offense is going great, what is it doing? Is it a lot of guys getting the ball?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just executing. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing for us, and sometimes that's going to mean, you know, handing it off 15 plays in a row, and sometimes it's going to mean throwing it 15 plays in a row. It just depends on who we're playing and what we're playing against. You know, I think that's what I like about this group so much, is we have, you know, I feel like we've got guys that can complement each other at every position. And so you know, that's what you want to do. You want to minimize mistakes. You want to take care of the football. You want to execute at a high level. You want to try to create opportunities for your players to get the ball in space, and then let their talent take over. So that's always been our philosophy, you know, and it kind of goes back to, you know, the air raid philosophy where, you know, you want the defense to cover the entire field, both vertically and horizontally. And so, you know, that's what we try to do. You know, we'll do it with different possession or different alignments with our wide receivers, different position groupings, different personnel groupings, you know, deploying receivers wide and then deploying them close by, just all the different things that you use to try to create advantages, you know, for your players and opportunities, again, to get the ball with good matchups in space.
How did your defense handle your offense this fall?
You know, I thought really well. I thought, you know, there were times, especially early, where I thought defensively we were significantly ahead of where we were on offense. You know, I think as camp rolled along, I thought it became a little more normalized and more about what you want to see. But I felt early on, you know, defense was certainly ahead of our offense.
We'll go 2 more questions if you have them.
Coach, you spoke volumes about Coach Gillespie when you brought him in and how he gave you fits, but how much did facing him in spring and fall kind of hone your craft a little bit as an offensive mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's what they do is tough. I mean, the thing I like about him, and again, it kind of goes back to our philosophy on offense is, you know, they're very versatile. You can, you know, it's designed to drop 8. That is the design of this defense. Is you can drop 8 defenders. You can constrict throwing lanes. You can hide coverages. You can, you know, make it very difficult for the opposing quarterback to know exactly what's going on pre-snap. Okay, so that part right there, you know, is a challenge within itself. But then at the same time, you know, all of a sudden now you can look up and there's 7, 8 guys in the box, and so I like the versatility of what that defense allows us to do. You know, I think that it's a very user-friendly defense, and what I mean by that is, kind of goes back to what we said earlier. If you have a guy that has a certain skill set, you can find a role for him in this defense. If you say, okay, we have a linebacker that's 240 pounds and really physical, but really has a difficult time, you know, covering backs out of the backfield, well, then you can find a role for him. You know, the big key, I think, defensively, and same thing offensively, but particularly defensively, is, you know, don't ask guys to do things they can't do. And I think that's rule number 1 in coaching. If we ask, you know, a guy that's 250 pounds to cover, you know, their best wide receiver, then that's not good coaching. And so, you know, it's our job to utilize the personnel we have available to us, which I like. I like the speed. I like the physicality of the group. You know, then I think, you know, you can do a lot of different things with that defense, and you can create, you know, matchups and things that are advantageous for you, whether it's rushing the passer or certainly in coverage. If you need help on somebody, you know, all the different things that you can do to try to slow an offense down, I think you can do it with this scheme.